Okay, this is Chilhowie City Limits number 11, and we got a lot of things to discuss already. We just put up number 10, but we're already up to number 11, and this one is called Civil Rights, episode number 11. And we got a couple of things to mention. One is people go, well, you know, there's one or two people in Chilhowie that are like sending him information or something. Couldn't be further from the truth. We have at least 5 people from out of state who have relatives or used to live in Chilhowie that are sending us information about things that happened to them in Chilhowie. And we have at least that many people or more in Chilhowie now that are also sending us information, including kids at the school. Now, word is the kids know more about the poop the cops are into in Chilhowie than anybody else, and the teachers and the vice principal and things like that. So anyway, we got lots of stories. We got a lot more stories coming in. We got a lot of stories that haven't completely finished happening yet, so we're not putting them in the video until they're done happening. And there's a lot of stories that they got court documents attached, like it's already the case is settled. We'd like to get a copy of the court record because it's some real interesting stuff. So anyway, if you got a court case and you think it's really interesting, get us a copy of the court record, PDF it to us, and send it email to akalife@gmail.com. Now, this movie's about civil rights, like if a cop beat you up or kicked you when you were pregnant, or, you know, certain things, you know, they become not just a violation of the local or state law, they become violations of U.S. civil rights law, where your civil rights have been violated. And what we have in the United States is we have regions that cover different states regarding to civil rights. Okay? So each state falls within a certain region under the civil rights law, meaning that, like, if you're in one state, you write to a different office than, say, if you were in California. So if you're in Virginia, you are in Region 3 for the Office for Civil Rights. And the Office for Civil Rights is under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So what I did is I wrote down all the address information so that if you got a complaint and you think your civil rights have been violated, like there's the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and there's a couple other civil rights acts that you can look at. But if you want more information and you think your civil rights have been violated, you can file a complaint with the Office for Civil Rights. Okay? This is not messing around. This is like, these people, I filed a complaint before, and it was in California, and the San Francisco office investigated. They did a very thorough job. So these people aren't slackers, and they will look into your story, okay? And if they get a pattern of behavior from the scumbuckets that run Chilhowie and from that scumbucket police department, then you can expect to see more action too. Okay, so here we go. This is the Paul Cushing is the manager there, person in charge, Region 3. Office for Civil Rights, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Okay? And then it's 150 South Independence Mall West, Suite 372, Public Ledger Building, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania 19106-9111. Okay? Phone number 215-861-4441. A hotline was an 800 number, 800-368-1019. Also a fax, so you can go down to the Food Lion and send a fax to the Office for Civil Rights. Wouldn't that be cool? Okay? 215-861-4431. Okay? We're going to hold it up here so you can pause the video and you can copy this down. it's time that the law was brought to Chilhowie. And not just the kind of law that the locals want to enforce to run their little mafia operation that they use the police force for, to get what they want and harass people if they're not getting what they want, okay? Anyway, so exercise your rights in the United States. You got a complaint, you send it to these people. All right, a lot of people have written me, some of them from Chilhowie and some of them from other towns and some of them from out of state. Anybody in Chilhowie who thinks that one or two people are supplying me with some very interesting stories, many of which I can't yet read here, you're mistaken. It goes much deeper than that. A pattern of corruption of 10 to 20 years or longer has spiderwebbed out so far and affected so many people in negative ways that there's a lot of people motivated who are hearing about the situation in Chilhowie and about these videos. There's people from out of state, there's people all over writing to me and calling me on the telephone and telling me their stories from Chilhowie and what happened to them when they were there or married there or whatever. So if you're going to be bastards and you're going to screw people over and you think the stories are going to go away, you're mistaken, because opportunities come up for which people can tell their story, what happened to them, and their motivation is that something be done to the people with money and power who abuse authority in the town of Chilhowie and can get away with murder because of who they are and how they're connected. So, you know, whether it was harassing people, if a cop did something bad and you knew about it, or he overstepped the law and you caught him at it, then the policeman follows you around and harasses you, looks for chances to give you a ticket. I mean, it happens in a lot of small towns, but right now people are sending me stories about Chilhowie. And I want to read here some story pieces that I've collected over the last week. One, a woman said that the Sheffield, the police chief who raped the girl at the Halloween party with another officer, that he and some other officer had raped her at a party. Okay? They didn't give me the name of that officer, but certainly when you're emboldened by what you get away with, you continue the behavior. So here goes. If you marry a Chilhowie woman, you are told you are on the outside, unless it is that you have money. Then you'll be allowed into the inner circle. But if you have morals, you're going to be on the outside still, because you're not going to go along with what they are up to in Chilhowie. There was this grandmother, and the daughter married a guy from outside Chilhowie, and the grandmother said, let's tell her this story. Let's tell her this story. And let's tell him the story. Now he's married and he's part of town, and let's tell him the story. And her relatives told her to shut up, and they started hitting her. And they started hitting her, and she started crying. They started yelling at her and telling her to shut up. And you're going to, and this is what they said to her, you're going to take that story to your grave. You're not telling anybody. And so if you're blackballed in Chilhowie, or you're an outsider, you can get tar and feathered and basically run out of town. There's people who will take money to keep a woman's child away from her because she's an outsider, and then blackball her. So a woman who wasn't from Chilhowie had a baby, and people took money to separate her away, you know, maybe she divorced or something, to separate her away from the child and to blackball her so that she couldn't, as a young mother, see her child, right? And then to get things done in Chilhowie, you pay somebody money and keep them in your back pocket. I had some more stories here. I just sort of put these in order for you. So, and you use, I think the term that I got in the mail was that you use a stolen identity in order to keep the child away from her real mother, and you make use of a stolen identity in order to do this. This is some of the machinations that I'm being told about. Alright? Chilhowie is a great place to raise someone else's child, even if you had to steal someone's identity to do that. You steal money from your own company, and you use that money to finance illegal activities. Laundered money buys a lot of people in Chilhowie. So you make money at your business, and then you don't record that money on your books for your taxes, and then you use that hidden money to pay off people in Chilhowie to get what you want. You have people of power, like police, following young girls in the cars they drive. There was a Chilhowie teenage girl, I'll probably hear more about this, maybe a newspaper clipping. A Chilhowie teenage girl found dead who had been raped, and they found her body near Hungry Mother Mountain. And there's a lot of stories I get, and if you send me a story and I'm leaving it out, then send it to me again and remind me. A drunk driver killed a girl on her graduation night by running into her car head on, and was never charged. Okay, there was somebody says there's a police officer named Andrew Moss, but I didn't get more details than that on it, so I don't know what that story's about. There was another story about maybe 10-15 years ago about a woman who was found with her throat slit, and it got ruled a suicide. So, you know, I made the comment to somebody early on in this discussion that there were dead people in Chilhowie, and that they were going to start talking. And we're not even close to all the stories that are coming out of Chilhowie being done. Okay, I'm going to read you a little bit of another email I got. Town elections are coming up in May, on the 1st, May Day, and the mayor and 3 town council seats are up for election. And we already know that there's only 2 people registered to run for council, so there's 1 seat that will go unchallenged. Brent Foster's council seat is one being challenged. Brent Foster is a hotshot pharmacist and owns the drugstore in town. He and Mayor Gary Henninger are big buddies and are tied at the hip. Their families do everything together and like to show off their fancy vehicles that no one else in town could ever think about affording. If Henninger goes, whoever gets elected, it can't be any worse. And cops selling drugs in town. Maybe maybe that's still going on. But it seems pretty clear that people really hate this bastard cop, Rick Romans, because his name comes up in a lot of messages from different people. You know, people moved out of town and then they write in and say, this is what happened to me when I lived in Chilhowie. So I'm sure the IRS would like to look at the books of a few people in Chilhowie and compare notes about the money they say they're making and the money they're really making. One more thing, like I've shown you this address for the Civil Rights Office. If you think you have been done wrong by the law, you might consider writing them a letter and explaining your story. I think that there's plenty of things haywire in Chilhowie. Well, I just love the people in Chilhowie that keep sending me these stories, because they're so far over the top you would not believe it. Now you see, there's a house in Chilhowie. We almost got blueprints for the floors of the buildings in Chilhowie, but there's a house in Chilhowie, and Dwayne Sheffield used to live in it. And there was this woman who was a nurse who lived in it, and something went on, and people said they saw a policeman crawling out of the window. Now, I mean, like, it's like Friday the 13th or Psycho. I mean, you could make a really good movie just in what we know so far about Chilhowie, because there's some really weird shit going on there, man. Like, it's down the street from the Undertaker's house. Now, the Undertaker, what I heard was something along the lines that he was in the prison for child pornography. Now, I thought it was because he made his wife take a bath in ice cubes before he'd make love to her, but it was that maybe he was involved in child pornography. He's in jail maybe, right? Well, down the street from the Undertaker's house, you know, when you weren't getting your body sewed up, this lady was found in her house dead. Now, I told you there's a lot of dead people in Chilhowie. Well, they're starting to come out of the cemetery. And she's found dead at the bottom of her stairs, supposedly with a broken neck. Now, her son is locked upstairs in a room. He's 3 years old, and somebody said they saw a cop crawling out of the window. But the state police, they make the mistake of letting Dwayne Sheffield handle the investigation. Well, the house used to be his. And so they say Dwayne Sheffield's showing the autopsy pics around town to people of this dead woman. That'd make you happy, wouldn't it? So you can just imagine for a minute what goes on in Chilhowie, considering who controls City Hall the last 20 years. Sheffield was the city cop chief for like 18 years. So the last 20 years, just think what's going on in that town has got buried, literally. So then I heard there was this story about some cop and his son. They went to Ohio, and they pulled a little, they're from Chilhowie, so the story goes, don't quote me, but they pulled some gangbang in Ohio. I mean, it's like a Chilhowie thing. If you're a cop, you gotta be in a gangbang, you know? I mean, like a gang rape, you know? So there's some cop son went to Ohio and some girl claimed she got raped, and they somehow beat the case and made the city pay him money or something. That's sort of the personality we know from Chilhowie, so we wouldn't be surprised if that story was true, because anything's possible in Chilhowie city limits. Now that reminds me, for you people who aren't from Chilhowie, you got an RV, you don't park it at the McDonald's, you just keep on going. Go to another town, go to another county. But crawling out of the lady's window, she's found dead inside with her neck broken, supposedly, and all the town gets to vote on the autopsy pics to decide what she died from, and then they put that in the report maybe. I don't know if that's how it works. You know, they take photos of the body, cut it all up, you know, and take photos, and they pass the pictures all around town, and then you go by City Hall at night, and there's like 50 different causes of death, and you check the box you want, you know, like died because of, was cut up by undertaker, died from the trauma, or something, you know. Died when they took her brain out, you know, to weigh it, you know. So, I mean, there's got to be some stories of some people went to the funeral home, got buried, and they didn't even know what they died from, right? They just sort of got buried, and they're in the cemetery, might not even know who they are. They might have rode a horse into town, and they got buried in the cemetery. It could all happen in Chilhowie, now couldn't it? So, if I forgot to tell your story in this video, you let me know, and I'll remember to tell it. And if you're dead, then you whisper in somebody's ear when they're sleeping at night and tell them to tell their story. Tell your story to me so I can tell it on Chilhowie city limits. And yeah, that's a mighty strange town. We got some great... You know, what makes these videos nice is every time the stories that I hear keep getting better. Now I got a stack of stories this big that I can't tell yet, because like some people haven't moved far enough away from Chilhowie yet to feel safe enough to tell the stories. And but I got a lot of people writing me that got some really good stories, and they just keep getting better. So Bill Boswell and Pam, yeah, somebody says, you ought to play that song from Tammy Wynette, Stand By Your Man, some song like that. You know, I don't know. I don't listen to that stuff. I don't got a radio on my horse. But, yeah, Gary Henninger. Now, somebody says Gary Henninger's daughter was dating that cop Cullen that got the DUI. But I don't know. There's got to be some even better stories in Chilhowie that I'm waiting to hear. So, yeah, Food City, the Methodist Church, the Baptist Church. I think there's some good stories of that funeral home. I really do. That place, man, painted all white on the outside and green. I bet there's some real stories in there. I bet in Chilhowie there'd be some real doozy stories in the undertaker's place, man. So, yeah, we'll just see what comes up of this, and you send us some more stories, and you know, the more far-fetched they are, the more likely it happened in Chilhowie.